Hello, Carrie Burchell here with another episode of Shine Like a North Star. I am a leadership consultant and coach, and my mission is to help be a bridge for you to get from point A to point B. And that bridge can be built on learning and development, which is what I'm offering in some of these free resources. So today we're going to dive into how leaders can make that culture shift that needs to happen. Now, this idea came up yesterday in a client session that I had, and we really spent a fair amount of time sort of talking about this reality. And bear with me as I try to visually represent some of that conversation with you of the environment and just really it being so chaotic, right? The environment around us is changing faster than organizations' capacity to really change, right? So there's all this stuff going on. I was even sharing that my grandmother is turning 103 in a couple of months. Yeah, not sure how I feel about that longevity. And her little table, dinner table that she sits with every night, walks down there. She's so strong. They use the word chaotic in their conversations, talking about sort of where the world's at right now, what they're hearing on the news, etc. And so it's this chaos that really impedes the culture shift, and it's forcing us to make change faster than organizations are really ready for change. And so you sort of imagine like your organization here is a house in the chaos, right? And we naturally want to get insular when there's just so much change happening. And does this look much like a house for you? And really wanting to protect the house, we sort of batten down the blinds and the windows, and we just sort of say, I don't want to see what's going on there. I don't have the energy to deal with some of that chaos that's happening. Well, of course, the chaos enters, and you're going to be impacted whether or not you want to change. And here is where we start having the unhappy employees, the turnover, all the nastiness that kind of comes with some of the realities that are really out of our control right now. So when we need the organization to adapt a little quicker and change a little more agilely to the chaos that's happening around them, there are a couple of strategies that I implement in my consulting work and would love to just share with you also, because in so many ways leaders can implement some of these same strategies in the work that you're doing. So it does involve slowing down to go fast. We don't get at this going fast part if we don't first slow down. So the first strategy is to really spend some time actively listening to your employees, which is the hardest leadership skill. Not only because active listening forces you to slow down to go fast, active listening also as a leader has you listening to some perspectives and beliefs and values that are not yours, don't align with yours, don't really connect with what you want to see happening. So keep in mind, when you effectively actively listen, you're not agreeing with what they're saying. You're simply hearing what those experiences are like for your employee. By honestly slowing down to hear what the employees are saying, that at least helps you identify as a leader what perceptions are out there, what the story is out there. How can you then kind of manage the story? So actively listen is the first step if you want to sort of create this culture change. What is the culture currently in your organization, on your team, with your family circle, friend circle? I mean, we can think of organizations in a lot of different circles. So first, actively listen. That does not mean agreeing with, it doesn't mean validating, it means I've heard you, this is what I've heard. And active listening, I could talk about this forever. Lots of coaching work around active listening, because what people often do is, yep, oh, wow. It's not really active listening. That's more what I call passive listening. There isn't this like two-way exchange to confirm you've said something, I'm hearing it, this is how I interpret what you say, is that what you mean? And this magic happens when there's that exchange, not just oh. That's not active listening, friends. Or if you want to call it active listening, it's exceptionally poor skills. So, use your good skills as leaders to actively listen to your employees. You're going to hear things that are frustrating and don't make you happy and feel overwhelming. After you get that sort of active listening done, look at all of your data. I just recently, working with the police department, have 61 pages of single-space notes around what these police officers' experiences are at work. So you actively listen, and then you look at your notes and you sort of say, what are some themes happening in my organization? And that's when you use those themes as a springboard for a deeper conversation with the collective group. So the active listening typically is done one-on-one and then morphs into a group setting, which is the second stage. So you have these themes and you sort of have a group discussion around, this is what you are experiencing at work. This is what the culture sounds like you're describing at work. And challenging them in that to let go of past culture. Right, so the first thing is active listening, and the second thing is bringing those themes forward to the group and challenging them to let go. So hard, right? And when you actively listen, you'll hear stories from the past, because people, hang on to things. That's just human nature. So challenging the group then to say, we can't create this future if we're still hanging on to this past. You're acknowledging the elephant in the room, and you're challenging them to say, as a group, we're saying we want things to change and get better. And of course, you're thinking in your head, I really need you to change, because this chaos is going to keep pelting us, and we're not ever going to be able to feel safe and comfortable in our house because of the anxiety that is coming at us from all the chaos in the environment, right? But that's more what you keep in the back of your head as a leader, right? You are challenging them, though. If we don't let go of the past, we're never going to create strategies to deal with the chaos that our environment has in store. Because it has been chaotic. It's going to continue being chaotic. Things are shifting, right? That just is what it is. So actively listen is the first stage. Second stage is really challenging them to let go. When we hang on to things in the past, that is very much grabbing a hold of the victim mindset and giving birth to it, like growing that mindset, terrible, growing roots, all of this. It just, the victim mindset is so paralyzing in moving forward. And it's legitimate, the victim mindset. Like, there are reasons why people hang on to that, and we do feel hard done by. There is chaos happening. Things haven't been managed perfectly in the world, no matter what topic you're thinking about, right? And so it's okay that you're feeling like a victim and that you have that mindset. I'm challenging you as a leader to let go, right? So you're not negating any of the things that you're struggling with as a leader, the behaviors that you're seeing, all that stuff. It is what it is. Let's move forward. And that brings you into the third paradigm of culture shift. First one's active listening, challenging people to let go. And the third thing is saying, okay, so given what you've shared with me in our one-on-one conversations, our group conversation as a team, what are 2, maybe 3 things, no more, that we can agree collectively on will make a big difference if we shifted? So 2 or 3 things that we control that we want to work on. And of course, as a leader, in the back of your head, you're saying, well, what do we really control? People control their own behavior and their own attitudes. And very frustrating reality is that sometimes that's really all that we can kind of control. So given that, how are we going to control our behaviors and our attitude? Now, that's not the frame that leaders are going to share with their teams. They're going to ask those great open-ended questions and actively listen and slowly bring them to, what can we control? Oh, it's how we show up at work. It's our behavior. It's how we interact with each other. It's how open we are to sort of problem solving and brainstorming the innovative space that we need to get through if we're really wanting to, grow our house to kind of manage more and more of this chaos, if you will, right? And as we shift the culture, we become more capable of insulating and protecting ourselves from this chaos that we know is going to persist, because that's just the world we live in, right? So we want to get to this sort of newer space of managing our house a little bit better, right? And so that this outside chaos doesn't come in and impact us as much as it has maybe in the past, right? This stuff is still obviously going to come in, but we have now new norms and some cultural things that make us safer here in the core, even made our house bigger, right? So I think of culture as what we do when nobody's looking. So when we think about how we show up and how we help each other and how we problem solve and how I manage my bias, my assumptions, the story in my head about you, like all of that's culture, right? That informs culture. So if you're experiencing a situation where there's just tons of things happening and your collective group, it could be 1, 2, 3 people, maybe more, are not as responsive or not as adaptive or not as problem solving as you want, then there are 3 key strategies that can help get you there as a leader. I'm happy to help too, of course, as a consultant. I love this kind of messy work. And sometimes as a consultant, I can poke the bear in hibernation a little easier than someone in-house, but that's a whole other discussion. So the 3 things are active listen, really hear what people's experiences are at work, and be prepared to use those emotional intelligence muscles and not react and manage the frustration that some of those conversations are going to give you. It's not validating, it's not confirming, you're simply hearing them. So that's the first step. The second is the challenge of letting go. So you have some themes that are coming up from the first set of one-on-one discussions, then you bring the group together, you talk about the themes, and you really hammer home this theme of letting go. Let go of the past, let go of what you can't control, let go of the victim mindset. And then the third space is really hunkering down on 2 or 3 things that your group can agree on, they can work on, and those 2 or 3 things, max, no more than 2 or 3, have to be things within our control. Not what we influence, but legitimately, purely, entirely within our control. Typically, those things revolve around how we show up, right? Some of those behaviors, attitudes, values, that kind of thing. I would love to be a part of this journey. Reach out. I'd love to brainstorm with you. Even better, having to journey with you as a consultant on the side. But this is the right work. So, go slow to go fast. Love to connect with you. On my website, you can sign up for a free coaching session, just even a collaborative discussion, brainstorming around strategy. Really want to help you get that culture where you need it to be so that you achieve those outcomes. And if the culture isn't where we need it to be, then we're not going to have the trust. And if we don't have the trust, we're not going to work together to achieve those outcomes. It's kind of a simple recipe that's super hard to work. So I'd love to help you, help your teams and that culture that you're really driving for. Carrie Burchell here for you, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.